I'm ready to potentially piss off 4 fan bases in the NHL, but because it's some cool discussion and a very weird idea brought up in an article, I decided to make a video about this here today. So, without further ado, let's head over to The Athletic, where we see Eric Duhatschek's newest piece on the website. This is his Duhatschek notebook, where he takes on the task of figuring out trades for Patrik Laine and Pierre-Luc Dubois. This article was uploaded on January 15th. As always, I'll leave a link down in the description over to the piece. But because this is paid for material, let's not go over here. Instead, we're going over to Spectors Hockey. By the way, look at the brand new beautiful logo over here on Spectors Hockey's website. And we're going to read the January 17th version of NHL Rumor Roundup, where this Duhatschek article is indeed discussed. Now, again, if you know Spectors Hockey, they go over different rumors, different hearsay around the NHL and what possibilities there may be. This one individual piece also indeed goes over the whole Patrik Laine for Dubois argument, which does exist in some discourses, which we're not going to explore here because, hey, that topic's been beat to death already, so why not go over the different one as we analyze what exactly it is Duhatschek says about the Kings, the Ducks, and who could be given up for these kinds of players. So, context: Patrik Laine, Winnipeg Jets, 2nd overall pick in 2016, very good player, disgruntled goal scorer. The guy's probably going to be a Maurice Richard winner one day, but he's not playing on the top line, and that really does upset him. The agents, the media, all of the people out there who have insider information have been saying that this guy would prefer a trade, so we've been discussing Patrik Laine trade possibilities the entire past half year, pretty much. Dubois is the guy who was taken immediately after Laine at that same 2016 NHL entry draft, and it's been recently leaked by several people into the media that he indeed also wants a trade, and John Tortorella, the coach of the Blue Jackets, came out and said, yeah, he does indeed want to leave, but he hasn't told us why yet. So there have indeed been the discussions going on as to whether or not teams could go after Dubois in the same way, offering up players, offering up assets, roster players, prospects, picks, etc. The same kind of thing going over for Laine. The bottom line is these two are young 22, under 23-year-old stars who are going to be great in this league, who are already great, but who could see themselves traded as soon as the next 12 months. This is what Duhatschek says about these players in his recent piece. If we go over on Spectors Hockey, it reads that Duhatschek suggests one way to resolve this is to ship Dubois to the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for Patrik Laine, who is rumored to want out of Winnipeg. Now that has indeed been discussed by a whole bunch of very good hockey YouTubers here, so we won't get into this one, but the problem is it's uncertain why each player seeks a change of scenery. If it's the size of the market, it's hard to imagine either player would be happy with this kind of swap. Which is why Duhatschek drops the bomb here. He believes it would be serendipitous if Laine were to end up with the Anaheim Ducks, where former Jet Teemu Selanne wound up spending most of his Hall of Fame career. Now before we proceed, serendipitous, I love that word. Let's go over to the definition over here. Occurring or discovered by chance in a happy or beneficial way. So a lucky, a fortuitous, unexpected, a very happily accidental kind of scenario, in more of a coincidental context here that has a very nice undertone to it, as the Anaheim Ducks are being suggested as one of what would be the nicer Patrik Laine destinations, because Teemu Selanne is a former Jet who was one of the best goal-scoring rookies of all time in the NHL, and who's also a Finn, who is one of the legends in the NHL. He scored so many points, so many goals, Stanley Cup champion that Teemu Selanne is, and if it's a Patrik Laine going over to Anaheim, you might be able to find some parallels with that beautiful story in this one. Duhatschek also suggests the LA Kings as a landing spot for Dubois, where the young center could fill the second-line role behind Anze Kopitar. And now you're taking a look at the other side. Duhatschek suggests the Kings and Dubois have a fit here, because if Pierre-Luc Dubois is going over to LA, sure, there might not be some very similar French-Canadian star in LA kind of story to follow up with, like Teemu Selanne and Anaheim. Oh wait, actually there is. There's literally Marcel Dionne, who was a very good LA King. He was also traded to the LA Kings as well. And, you know, there's a different playstyle here. Obviously, Marcel Dionne was one of the top point producers of all time. Dubois is a very good two-way center, going to be one of the best in the game by the time he hits his prime. Already one of the better players in the game as well. But, you know, there's a nice connection there as well. It's not even mentioned here in the article. I just pulled that one off the top of my head because I'm a very big hockey historian myself. You see, I'm joking about that, by the way. But either way, there indeed is a suggestion being made over here. If Pierre-Luc Dubois goes over to the LA Kings organization in the way that Duhatschek is describing, then yes, he could be an immediate second-line center for this LA Kings squad, learning the ropes of being one of the best behind Anze Kopitar, who is already one of the best of the past decade, pretty much. Once Kopitar leaves, you have yourselves your immediate number one. Dubois is already a number one in Columbus, so it wouldn't be that difficult of a transition to make. But again, the leadership, all the mentoring going on there by the older guys, Drew Doughty, Jonathan Quick, etc. It's going to be very nice to see for young players. And I know if you're an LA Kings fan right now, you're screaming at your screen, bro, the Kings don't need centers, the Kings don't need centers, why are you suggesting this? Okay, just calm down. We have ourselves a few more minutes of gameplay to go over here now, don't we? The price for the Ducks and the Kings would cost them a promising young asset like Trevor Zegras or Quinton Byfield. And this is why we're talking about it, man, because this idea is so crazy and it has the potential to piss off all the fan bases involved that I just wanted to talk about it. First off, you're pissing off Winnipeg because right away, the Winnipeg Jets said the entire time if they're trading Laine, they're trading him for a trade that makes their team better. If you trade Laine for Zegras, you're not making your team better in the short term. Now, long term, you could definitely debate it. Okay, having a 1-2 punch down the middle of Scheifele Zegras, that sounds beautiful. But the Jets are in a position where they would probably prefer to win while Blake Wheeler is still doing things and not have to wait before the guy ends up starting to decline, which is going to be inevitable at this point. You still have other guys in your team. You have a top six that's loaded with, obviously, Laine's in there. Ehlers, Connor, Scheifele, Wheeler, and Paul Stastny, who's very good too. If you trade away Laine for Zegras, okay, your team is getting worse, unless you're adding on another nice roster forward who could probably match the same amount of output that a Laine has, or you're adding on a very nice defenseman that in which the Jets do need. And I don't know if the Ducks would be willing to give up defensemen. They just recently lost Christian Juice to waivers because they have all the right pieces put into place. And with that asset subtracted from the roster, who knows how flexible they would be in trading away a good, capable defenseman that the Jets would actually see value in. Aside from that, though, if you had Zegras playing on a line with Stastny and Ehlers, oh, that sounds beautiful, baby. And on the flip side, you have Quinton Byfield. Now, in the previous Dubois trade suggestion video, we suggested Suzuki, Kotkaniemi, these guys. We also suggested in a previous one before that, Alexis Lafreniere. So Quinton Byfield would be added onto this idea here, because if you're going to get a center in return, you might as well give a number one potential center in Quinton Byfield back. We noted this a whole bunch, but the Kings already have so many good centers in their U23 core. Madden, Turcotte, Byfield, Vilardi, Akil Thomas, Jared Anderson, Dolan, Rasmus Kupari, the list goes on, not to mention the fact that you still have Kopitar. The need for additional centers isn't that great in LA. But if you're to go out there and say, okay, we're going to trade away Quinton Byfield for a guy in Pierre-Luc Dubois who's a few years ahead of Byfield in terms of development because he's older, and who's already one of the top U25 two-way centers in the entire league, you honestly have an idea that does have some sort of value. Now, I know Quinton Byfield is going to be amazing, and I don't want to sleep on this guy. I absolutely do not think the Kings would be in their right minds to trade away a Byfield because of what he could be in the future. Just because the suggestion is made over here on The Athletic makes it a lot more of an interesting idea to talk about, because there certainly does seem to be an argument that would agree with it. I just personally don't see it because I love the long-term potential of Byfield, and Zegras too, of course. But also, going back to the Byfield thing, another aspect of this is indeed the actual Columbus side, because this could very well tick off the Columbus fan base because, hey, they're getting rid of their best player for a guy who hasn't even played an NHL game yet in Quinton Byfield. That does not sound great. So unless you're getting other assets in this deal, if you're Kekalainen, it really doesn't make sense either. Even though Dubois for Byfield, you could say value-wise, long-term is hugely in favor of LA because Byfield is so good, at the end of the day, Dubois is still the best Columbus Blue Jacket out there. Byfield hasn't played a game yet, and it's going to play in heavily if anything like this is even remotely discussed between NHL general managers. So, long story short, Anaheim might not like trading Zegras because he was really good at the World Juniors. Winnipeg might not like trading Patrik Laine for Zegras because your team gets worse unless you have a defenseman added on there. LA might not like trading for Dubois because Byfield, and Columbus might not like trading Dubois for Byfield because the development curve and the overall value that one has to an NHL team today is heavily skewed in one direction. So, Again, I said it right. I could piss off so many people with this idea. And obviously, big props to Eric Duhatschek for going out there and publishing it on The Athletic. Again, link in the description to that piece as well as the Spectres hockey article. Talk to me in the comments what you think about these trades, these ideas. Would you do them? Would you not? And if so, tell me why. I hope you enjoyed this video. Trolls99. And bye.